Welcome back to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where you'll find information on what's going on the North Fork of Long Island. We'll be focusing on issues and opportunities going on in the community, as well as people and stories from the present and past. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 11, we have Denis Noncarrow. He is currently the Southold Town Clerk, and we discuss where he grew up and how he came out here and has gotten involved in the community with the politics and civics area, and what he's doing as the Southold Town Clerk, and some of his own personal thoughts on issues and topics about Southold Town and the future of the area. So I hope you enjoy episode 11 with Denis Noncarrow. Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So I usually start these interviews off just asking where you were born first.
I was born in Brooklyn, 1963, so a long time ago now. And I was born to a young lady who had an affair, and I ended up getting adopted. So she put me up for adoption, and I was ended up with a great family that couldn't have kids. So I ended up growing up for quite a few years in the Glen Head, Glen Cove, that area. Mm-hmm. And then we moved out to the North Fork right around 1979, 1980.
And so you said you were raised in Glen Head for
yes.
the majority
of my younger days, yeah. So till 79, 80, then we moved out here. My father got a transfer. He was in the bank industry, and he got a transfer. And they were very excited that we moved out here. So a little shock in the difference of where you grow up, but yes, that's where it all came to be.
And did you ever look back at in terms of ancestry to see?
Put it this way, no, I did not. And I guess around 2009, 2010, it was funny, I was taking the notary class and I was home, and I was kind of in an angry mood because I thought I failed it, which I didn't. But the phone rang, and it was kind of an interesting. Well, it was very interesting to me. The phone call ended up, somebody said, if you have a minute to talk, I happen to be your brother. Mm. So it was actually, he finally got in touch with, they were searching for me for years, which I did not know. And I don't know, your talk doesn't want to get into all that, I'm sure. But, the Oprah network had a In Search Of type of a program where they try to find folks that people couldn't find. So he had researched and found me through the Oprah network, and they actually did a show on. It was very interesting, but that was my way that I found my birth mother and father. And my birth father just died just recently, but he, the very interesting past. He grew up in the city, and both his parents were deaf mutes, so there was a long, interesting past to them. But I ended up with a lot of different siblings through the family that I was adopted from. So there's a lot of past in that. It's very interesting.
Wow. And so with your parents, you said your dad was in banking?
Yep. So the two that adopted me, Richard Noncarrow, who was very well known in this community and involved in everything. He was with the bank out here, and he was in the Kiwanis, which I joined, and he was with the North Fork Environmental and the Chamber. He was very involved in the community. My mother was she's retired now. She's still alive, but she was a nurse at San Simeon and then in Riverhead for the longest time.
Oh.
So yeah, so they had quite a tie into the community in a lot of different ways. But when we came out here, at my age, I saw things differently. My priorities were different than their priorities, so they saw the beauty of the area. I, as a 17-year-old or whatever, saw things like, where is everything? So it was
because you were coming from
yes, I was coming from a very busy area and had a lot of different thoughts on the whole thing than they did. But in the end, worked out.
Did they say why they wanted to move out here?
So my father was with the Bank of New York as a branch manager. Banks were different than they are now, where everybody went to the bank. He got a promotion as a district manager to the Bank of New York, and the district was out here. So they were excited as can be. And, they did give me the option of finishing high school up there and staying with another family, blah, blah, blah. I was like, now, tag along. So it was a challenge. I moved out here my last year of high school, being transferred to another high school, not knowing everybody. It was a struggle. It really was. It wasn't Mattituck High School was a lot of great people and great teachers and all, but I knew nobody, so it was quite the challenge.
It's tough.
That's tough.
Doing that in was that senior year of high school?
Yes, and I was a shy kid, so it really was I ended up driving back to Glenhead a lot. So it was a challenging time.
How was your experience at Glenhead going through school there up until?
I was not a school type person, so wasn't. I wasn't in sports. It was a big sports area. I was a car guy back then, so all I cared about was cars. So I had a group of people that loved that too. So we kind of, which I guess I look back on, I'm not sure what we succeeded, but they all joined the military. Everybody I hung out with joined the military. Super successful after that, and I was afraid to do that, so I did not. So they all left. I don't know. It was a lot of interesting up and downs, and a lot of the things I did at that age time was self-inflicted, not successful things. Yeah.
But when you saw some of your friends were joining the military, that wasn't something you were interested in.
I look back, I don't know if it would have been better or worse. Like I said, they were super successful. I was afraid to do it. I didn't think I'd make it, so I did not. But when you join the military, you learn life very fast. And I think I learned life very slowly, not following them. So all of a sudden, those little things that they had to do ASAP were things that it took me 10 years to. Yeah. Very interesting. And I look back at that now. I have a 30-year-old son who it was the strangest thing. So he was in high school and in 11th grade, and he's a bookworm type of kid. And I was divorced at the time. He calls up. He says, "I'm gonna go into the reserves, and I've got to go into boot camp between 11th and 12th grade." And this kid was little, and he had big, Coke bottle. I said, "This kid's going to do this." Let me tell you, it was the best thing in the world. It really was. He went in the reserves. They paid for his college years, and he became an adult maybe quicker than some people would want. But he really, at a young age, became very successful in his every part of what he does. I'm very proud of him.
Yes.
And I guess we went off on military life, but
no, that's good.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And so now, finishing up at Mattituck High School, did you know what you were thinking of planning on doing? Or?
No, I really. I look back, I bounced around and didn't have my act together for a very long time. And like I said, I had my passion was the automobile business, so I always kind of ended up there and worked in that a lot. And I enjoy that. The business end of that, I still to this day enjoy. A car dealership to me is could and should be an enjoyable thing. But it never gave me any kind of, I never got any direction where I should go, so it was kind of a bouncy. I bounced around and I went to college a little bit, this, a little and that a little, but never mastered anything particularly.
And you ended up moving away from the North Fork?
So what happened was in the mid-ish 90s, I had a young son and I got divorced from my wife. So I kind of ended up with job life up there and stayed up there a little bit. So I was back and forth, but I was more up there with the job industry at the time. So I was in different type of car industry, Nassau and Queens. And I was back here a lot because my son was back here. So, it was kind of a little in between, but I was a lot staying up there because the commute was brutal. Yeah.
So how did you decide to move back to the North Fork in that?
So I was up there in different car jobs, and a lot of them were very interesting and very challenging, quick pace learning, rough part of the car business. And I ended up doing a lot of things, such as starting a homeless shelter with some other folks and stuff like that. Got involved with a lot of things that were good.
Was that in Nassau County?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. And through living up there a lot, the church I was going to, I ended up meeting my second wife, who I'm married to this day, who's a great lady. So what happened was I married her. We were in Glen Cove a little bit, and my father out here passed away. So we said, we best move back here so we can care for my mother. So that's what we did. That's how we ended up back. I still had tons of connections, still was very involved out here, but it was like, let's plant ourselves there.
And how would you describe the area at that time, the North Fork?
Still as I remember it, when I moved out here, not too different. It was subtly different with some of the folks, a change, but it wasn't incredibly different than then. It was kind of a steady type of.
And before that, you said you were involved with creating a homeless shelter, but
yes.
Would you say you got more involved with politics and civics more on the North Fork when you came back?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when I was in that area, there was a calling through my church and others to start this homeless shelter. A couple folks died in the winter, froze to death. So a lot of the community groups fired up. Basically what happened was in the Glen Cove area, a lot of the summer workers had nowhere to stay. So there was a ton of people that really needed some type of shelter. So that's where that came to be. What was incredible, it kind of mirrored Marine's Haven at the same time that was starting out here. We were starting that there. And it was a huge amount of work and undertaking to get it going. To this day, it's still going. It was an incredible,
wow.
And it was an incredible challenge moving it around and all that. But we got that going. I was also on the board up there of a mental health organization who was recently taken over. But, they coincided enough where there was a lot of mental challenges with the homeless, some of the homeless. So, it kind of meshed very well. There was a lot of instances where there was a similar people that we were working. So through that, I got a lot of taste for helping the folks in the community. When I came out here, politics were the first thing I wanted to do was get involved with something similar. and I had always heard about CAST because that was around so long. So I started to go to their board meetings to fill that calling.
And what type of work were you doing at CAST that were some things that you were proud of that you did there as president?
It was interesting. There was a lot of challenges, but we had a lot of great people around. It's a different organization and it's, Kathy's brought it up to being a very big, great organization. Back when I was running it, we were, it was a challenge to come up with the monthly expenses. So it was a total different thing. Hats off to her. But, when I got Sarah Benjamin, when she came along as the executive director, she brought with her the parent-child organization, and I think what I saw that doing, as well as everything else we do, but that really brought us to a different type of program that really, hats off to her. She was very involved with that, and she had quite the passion and calling for that, and it really, changed a lot of people's lives. And just the understanding of that program and the lack of to get a child reading at a very young age and get them really ready and going to have a better school life was really what that was about. That was, there's many things. We had many, many, many things, but that was one of the bigger things that I remember.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this was before or after CAST. I saw that you had you were a service writer.
Yes.
With Suffolk County.
I was, yes, before being the government liaison out here. I was with Lucas Ford, and I kind of started to help out on the political realm of things and get more and more involved in that. And I took the test of Suffolk County, and I ended up there. I was there for like about 5 years. It was basically a dispatching job for the police car repair garage in Yakima. So it was quite interesting, different type of challenge, but yes.
Yes. Yeah. And then how did you get in? How did the Southold Town Government Liaison Officer job come about?
So Philip Belts he had a different title, but it was basically the same job. Sometimes in government, titles don't work for one person but work for another, but it's the same job description. So he had left, and I worked with him quite a bit with CAST and the things he did. And when he had left, I was asked a couple times if I'd consider the job because of my background with the homeless shelter and CAST and all that type of thing. And finally I saw, maybe it is something that I should, I'd be potentially good at. So I did end up taking the job. Yeah.
And what kind of duties were involved in that job?
So it's kind of a community. It's basically community development flavored, depending on what's needed in the community at the time. So there was a lot of communication with the community, and whatever the needs were, that's where you went to, and you oversee to try to get grants. Many different, working with the county to do grants, and it also included at the time the housing. So you were doing affordable housing, or whatever you want to call that at the time. So we were doing that. We were overseeing the cottages and that. It's just the paperwork end of it. I was on the housing commission. That's part of that job. So me and Rona Smith spearheaded and put together the Vineyard View. So a little, those community, if you heard of Family and Help, or if if there was a need with like the playground in Peconic, we got the funds and put that together. So those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
You're active in the community, and whatever needs came up, that's what you worked on. Like during COVID, I was busier than ever.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing all that community support between the businesses and the
Yes.
and the seniors and stuff. So there's a lot to do during that.
And while you were a Southold Town liaison officer, what project were you most proud of that you helped spearhead forward in the community?
I think the most rated success was Vineyard View. I still look at that as a huge success. I know a lot of folks up there that live there that work in the community and are active in the community that do live up there. The problem was when it first came online, it was during COVID. There was a couple problems. Number one is there's a problem with the lottery when that first came to be. So the company that was running it screwed up the lottery. So they had to redo the lottery. It was a horrible mess. So it kind of started in a bad light. And then when COVID hit, talk about everything hitting at once, there was a restriction on enforcing rules with renters. So there was some families up there that were troublesome, and the company couldn't do anything about it because of COVID. So, it got a bad rap right off the bat, and in a couple different subjects. But I think now I wish people would take another look and say, hey, that was very successful. We did so many different ADA projects or other projects through through that office, the parking lots in Mattatuck, or like I said, there's so many different ramps and playgrounds and many things that were supported through the work of that office. Yeah.
And you said you also worked with the Mattatuck cottages?
Well, that job, not the construction of it, but overseeing the sales or whatever of it, the administration. So that was part of that job because it oversaw the housing end of things in Southold. So that's changed. Everything's changing now. So I don't know if it's been a couple of years since that office has been filled, which to me is disappointed, but I understand that they haven't connected the right person. I think they have that now. So I think we'll see somebody very good going in there soon.
And moving on from there, you now have started as the Southold Town Clerk.
Yes.
How did that job come about?
Betty was retiring, Betty Neville, after many years with the town. And when I heard that coming about, it kind of looked like it fit something I should be doing because it was, once again, helping folks in the community, but on a lot bigger scale with employees that were very good in the office and whatnot. So it looked like a really good fit. So that's why I decided to run on it.
And how would you describe a typical day for working as Southold Town Clerk?
You know what? I jump in with both feet, and fortunately, we have the structure of the office is done so with a lot of great people. I mean, someday if you want to meet them, you should come down. I have some really great people, and I have some people that have been there for years and understand the running of the office. So although Betty was a big loss, there's a team in there now that's I can't speak highly enough. So that kind of takes the sting out of everything that goes on there. But there's a lot of moving parts with a clerk's office that people just don't understand. So it stresses me out not having my hands on everything and being an expert on everything. It's a challenge. Definitely a challenge.
And what would you say you enjoy most about the job?
I still say dealing with the employees there and dealing with the folks in town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though a lot of people moved away and there's a lot of new people out, there's still a lot of people that I know very well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really great to interact with them. With the last government liaison, you're not necessarily, somewhat. I mean, if you go into civic organizations and stuff like that, you'll have some interaction, but it's more of a administrators get the task done, and that's it. This is constant face to face dealing with the folks. So
Yes.
that's the best part.
Yes. And like you kind of said earlier, in terms of the toughest part, would that be more just handling everything, or?
Yes, for me not to get too stressed out about everything going on, because there's a million moving parts, and you don't want to. The list of things that the clerk's office does is pretty daunting, and when you just see one thing, it's like, all right, that's one thing, so it's no big deal. But there's many mechanics to it, and
Yeah.
so if it's all going on at once, and you have great employees doing a lot of it, you still want it to flow well and want it to be successful. So having all that around you, whirl in town, you have to get used to that. And you have to be able to handle.
And it's basically all of the town's documents and filing.
We do all that, yes, all that, all the local laws we administer. There's, public hearings that we administer. There's bonds we administer.
So there's a lot of navigating parts.
It's a lot. And, I've been with government a long time, but I've been with a clerk's office for 2 years. And so you think, well, 2 years, you should have takes this, some things pop up here and there, so you're not you don't learn by repetition. It's a different type of learning, because, you might do something now. If somebody comes in and wants to buy flow credits, okay, I'll read the list and do it. But then you won't do it again for 2 years. So you can't say, well, yeah, this is how you do it. Like, I have to read my notes. I have to look. And you don't want to miss anything. You know what? We missed something a while ago that was like, we missed something, and it was something you wouldn't really know unless you're doing it a lot. So it's like those type of challenges. It's a new type of thing, and it's a complex office that you just, till you're in there with the whirlwind of stuff, all of a sudden there's somebody that needs a gambling license, and you're doing a marriage license, and you're doing a special event permit, then you got somebody who wants to do fireworks, and then you got the dogs, and you get the alarm fees, and then you it's a pile of all kinds of things, and then you got every other year you're going to add the beach and dump permit. You know what I mean? Those to it, which all of a sudden there's 20,000 of those to be administered. So it's an interesting bunch of things going on. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And now, just in general, as someone who's a resident living on the North Fork, what do you feel are the major issues facing, I guess you could say, the town of Southold area?
It's what everybody talks about. It's similar to the issues that the Hamptons are. You're getting overwhelmed with people that are, you've been discovered. You got an overwhelming volume of people coming out. The weekends, how do you move them around? What do you do about Airbnbs and all that? That's going to be something, the increase of what's going on, the decrease in the working group of people. And then you have, on top of all that, you have the sea level rise stuff, which we have to address, which I think our new supervisor is going to be talking about more. A lot of these changes that are affecting us in so many ways, we could pinpoint them to address them as a monumental challenge, and some of them I don't know how they're huge challenges.
And say with, like you said, with the South Fork, with traffic and people, especially in the summertime, you see that as something that would eventually happen, or it's starting to happen here, but
Starting out.
do you see public transit as an option to negate some of that, or
You got to once again, you have to take your time and really analyze a couple of the options.
Mhm,
No one option is going to work, and a lot of the options are expensive. So it's not, typically transporting people is a loser. Some years ago we dabbled with the trolley, the
mhm,
weekend trolley, and it was not going to make money. You were
mhm,
not going to. But weekend traffic wise, is probably something that should be looked at. I don't. Can you find somewhere to park
mhm,
workers and then get on the transit back and forth? I'm not sure. Is there some place in Riverhead West where you could say park here, we'll bus you? I don't know, but those are all options that really should be looked at.
mhm,
The affordable housing thing is a daunting and very difficult task. And then what is the amount of reasonable priced housing? What is the amount you need that will help us with these challenges? I
mhm,
don't know, but it's a big number, and I'm not sure
mhm.
how you get there. But meanwhile, you have some great schools that you know what I mean. You have all that, and then you have a change in the who and what is buying the houses out
Mhm.
here. I understand it all. I mean, it's free market, so if somebody's selling a house that they paid 100 and it's worth $1 million now, what are you going to do? Say, oh no, I'm not going to sell it for that. I want,
Mhm.
so that's what's changing. The challenging role of the people buying these houses. A lot of times, there's not people buying them. There's business. They're looked at as now a business.
More of an investment,
It's an
or
investment, and
yeah,
and it's an investment for these short-term rentals, or
because then you have more people that were here full time. They might not be able to afford it, and then there's some that are still here, but then they're saying that there's not as many people on the streets in the winter time, or they're only here in the summer, but
yeah, yeah, right.
it's tough.
It's tough, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. There's a challenge with every part of that. You know what I mean? And what do you do to change that?
Hmm.
If a business bought a house to rent the house, and this is all opinion,
Hmm.
and I'm on the board of North Fork Chamber, so they
Yeah.
might not like what I say about it, but it's like, so I'm in a neighborhood. Your business bought a house in my neighborhood to rent. Is my residential neighborhood now a business? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like it. These are things that you really have to have more discussion about. I don't,
Yes.
and 2 week rental, you're not capturing the challenges of what
Hmm.
is going on, but it's a lot bigger than I think a lot of people think.
Yes.
And this is opinion. Somebody
Yeah.
says, "I'm not voting for you, clerk," because you said that about. I don't know what to say, but
Yeah.
it's a huge challenge right now. It's a huge challenge.
And with housing, I think that the vineyards is, like you said, that's a looked at as like an underrated
Yes,
project that you
I
work.
believe so.
And how do you see housing moving forward? Because I see there seems to be with it can be called affordable housing or mixed
Yeah, or attainable housing,
attainable
or what? Yeah,
housing,
there's many ways to call it different things.
but it just seems like we're getting more people that with money coming out here, and it's to buy houses, and then we might have more affordable housing, but then it leaves a gap in the middle for middle class people, or they don't make the cutoff for affordable housing. Is there something where you do a market rate approach to that with other people that might be stuck in the middle? Obviously, it's a
Yeah,
tough
it's a
issue.
tough. It's a tough. Everything you're talking about is something that is, we have some great people
Mhm,
trying to figure this out. Greg Dorosky, Jill Doherty,
mhm,
they those two, and I know Ann Smith is on that board also. They are painstakingly trying to figure this all out. And I don't know how you get there. So Vineyard View, remember,
Mm-hmm.
so Vineyard View, I don't remember the numbers. I hate to. So I think it cost $25 or $30 million to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Tax credit wise, the government flicked in a huge amount of that with tax. So let's say 10 million. So I don't know how you do those type of things on a different scale or one at a time per house.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of money you would have to come up with to bring down the value of a housing to make it affordable for a middle class. I don't know how you come up with that money now that real estate is as nuts as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you get there. And that doesn't mean you can't. I in my head, can't figure it out. Vineyard View became Vineyard View because of federal money.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when the feds give you money, they're like, all right, now this is the way we're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that was the other part of it. What you're saying is a very tough thing, and it's, I know there's another focus on home ownership. And me and Rona, I think it's got to be looked at again, but I think there's a rent-to-own model that I think we're just missing there's something to be said for that, but I'm not sure how it would work.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what you have to look at.
Yes,
rent to own in some method. Because ownership is, even if we pretend or struggle to get there, the amount of money you're gonna have to put towards somebody owning these days is a huge. You're going to have to come up with huge money all over the place. It's this problem is holy mackerel.
It's the whole. It's not just the whole country.
It's the country.
Yeah, it's not just.
It's absolutely the country, and it's the problems we have here that we're discussing. The transportation and affordable housing. It's everywhere. Long Island, I'm watching all these other towns going through the same thing. I'm watching upstate, a lot of these towns, same, and then pile on other issues that they have. I mean, we have the beauty of our success that's caused problems, kind of in a way, in a backwards way. But I see a lot of the other challenges that some of these communities have, and it makes us look like we don't have problems. But there's 4, 5, 6 problems that we have that I know so many people are trying to solve, and we continue to have to try to solve them. And unfortunately, most problems come with a huge price tag.
Yes. And there was another question I thought of. With your involvement in government and in the town, how has it been trying to navigate the politics on both sides and trying to be someone that can work both sides with bipartisanship?
Yeah, isn't that fun? That's I often think of that. I mean, so you have two parties. This is what makes it can be looked at comically because sometimes. So we're two parties, and half the time we're on the same sides, or a lot of times, like let's say the Republicans are looking more like we're pushing the Democratic issues, and it's so we meld. I don't half the things that we work on, we're all on the same page.
Yes,
and as a we really got to stop this. Oh, I'm not sitting with them; they're a Democrat. We got to stop that part of it because it's in our half the time. The party stuff is in our heads more than when we sit down to deal with it. Years ago, I mean, there was strong parties. The parties had the weight. The parties made the decision and all that. Now you have a group. We have a blessed group of people, right? And they're all kind of working together with the same. The party thing is kind of so interesting out in this town. It is so interesting. I gotta say, I mean, and I don't, whatever party, I love all these people on this board. What a great group. My God, they're all working. And even the trustees, everybody else, it's just a great group of people. And I have nothing, look, I'm 60 years old. People, I'm not, what can I say? What can I do? I give you 100%. But party-wise, we as a parties put too much thought into that end of it, and we almost make it to be it's something that it's not. We all get together, we all work along, we all care about the community. You hear something go on, that tragedy in the community, we're all there. I mean, I don't know what it's not there. It's if you go in the state level or if you go on the federal level, okay, you know what I mean. The Republican values and the Democratic Party, they're separate. Town-wise, we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, everyone's kind of, for the most part, want to move forward with the town on what needs to be done, and
for the town.
Yeah,
when I got on there many years ago, my father was a Republican, and I guess obviously that's how I got the flavor for it. But I remember he was on the North Fork Environmental. And I remember one of the strong Republicans throwing him out of his office because we don't stand for that. This day and age, we stand next to anybody worrying about the environment, worrying about land preservation. You know what I mean? And worrying about this stuff. So I don't, if you could tag me with something because I'm a Republican, because this person's a Democrat, that the big party does, and maybe they shun you because I guess you can get there, but I don't see it. I really don't see it.
Yes. It almost it simplifies things too much with just putting people, just because of whatever.
It does. And it's like, you're looking for some reason to have this separation that it's not healthy anymore. You know what I mean? And then if we turn on social media and people get sucked into that, and there's a lot of concerns about that. It's like, if you want it to, it will lead you to that more.
Yes, because it's kind of they'll give you more of the same. It's kind of like an echo chamber of the same stuff.
Yep, it's echo chamber of the same stuff, and it's not. And I learned this a long time ago. I mean, when we put that homeless shelter together, we were day and night, and I was with every person from every religion or aspect of the world than you ever imagine, and we all brought different ways of doing things, and we all had skills that we all kind of needed in different ways, and it brought me. We can't get too in the weeds with all that other stuff, you know what I mean? Yes. I mean, I got involved with the Republican Party. I went to a couple of events. I liked the people. I do believe in a lot of the Republican values, so it worked, you know what I mean? And I love working with the Democrats just as much. I got a lot of great Democratic friends. I hope that they look at me as I look at them, and I'm not the scary monster that the world will tell you I am.
Yes. Yeah. And now, moving forward, what do you hope for the future of Southold Town and its community and its history down the line?
I like I said, I think we have issues, as every town has issues. Our issues are not. They can be worked on. I think as long as people continue to love each other and try to reach out and care for one another, I think we will get there. Some of the challenges, I don't know how a government body fixes some of them. I think we have to, as we do, continue to look into them. But I think we have to, as a community and a nation, stop and be thankful for what we have. You know what I mean? And just understand the differences, understand our God-given talents, and bring them to the table and work hard for our community. I mean, we have one of the greatest communities there are. I mean, look what happens when somebody has a crisis in their life. Dylan Newman, so many of those type of things. This community is like activates like no other. And even with a lot of people moving away and a lot of new people, the new people activate just as strongly. And that we have to stop getting angry about these little things and start really understanding what we have and what we're blessed with. And I think we'll be in a lot better place if we do.
And was there anything else you'd like to discuss that we haven't talked about?
No, I could sit here and talk about town clerk stuff and put everyone well asleep.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in today.
Absolutely.
And your involvement in government and keeping the town running.
Thank you for your time. And it's Martin Luther King Day tomorrow, and let's support all he did also. He taught us.
Yes.
So similar to just loving everybody and caring for your neighbor.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed episode 11 with Denis Noncarrow. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast. We'll see you next week.